In a world where taboo involves repression of sexual expression, tonight's top 10 list uncovers the top 10 most sexual countries in the world. We pull back the curtain.
Beef curtain.
On those sexual countries. All right, this week on the Twisted 10. Welcome to another episode of The Twisted 10.
What up? Hello.
Sitting in here with the three hosts with the most.
The most? Well,
that didn't really work out too well. All right, so we're sitting in here with my boys, Ron and Josh. No Tach this week. He is doing other things, other podcasts, but that's okay. We miss him. He still contributes with the show a little bit. Don't shake your head at me, Josh. I don't want to see your judgmental views.
You're being mean to him.
Well, he deserves it sometimes. Come on.
He is editing everything that everybody hears.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
But yes,
he does have his fingers in the soup.
We do miss you. We do miss you.
Yeah, for sure. So welcome, fellas. My mom's birthday is in 2 days.
Yeah, what you getting her?
Yeah. Well, so we got her a hanging planter thing. These little hanging. She likes little things like with plants and shit. So Andrea and I bought her this for Christmas, but it never showed up. So we had to get an alternate gift. Well, it finally showed up. So we've got a good backup gift for her. And Andrea wants to buy her this big mixer, this like KitchenAid style mixer thing, electronic mixer. I don't know.
Nice. Tell her the Rodecaster Pro is what she wants.
You hear that, listeners? We want that. The Rodecaster Pro. It's only like $5.99. It's not too bad.
Yeah, whenever the day comes that we have that, they're going to be tired of hearing about it. It's in the mail. I just checked the shipping tracker. It'll be here by Tuesday.
Dude, this Christmas season, I was all over some Amazon, UPS, FedEx, USPS tracking websites.
Did you do it way early, like the stuff you ordered mostly?
Yeah. I didn't.
I've learned over the last few years that forget these. They used to have some really good, when you're Christmas shopping or whatever, some really good timelines on when you could get stuff. Man, if you go like 2 weeks before now, you're usually screwed at most places.
I ordered everything for our Christmas because we did. I talked about this once before on the show. This year we were purely online. I mean, we went to the local stores for a couple of small knickknacks you couldn't really get online, but everything else we were 100% Amazon.
Yeah. We did
Christmas
too.
this year.
Same. Yeah.
So that kind of drove us down a couple of different I mean, I bought a few things from Bed Bath & Beyond and a few other retailers, but for the most part, we were Amazon strictly. And I bought everything for everybody in the family by the last order I did was December 9th. So that gave it at least 2 weeks to get here, and there was still shit that was either not delivered. I just got a few things just the other day, like some little rings and shit for Andrea, but that's a pain. So part of the problem is Andrea loves the deal. She loves finding bargains on the internet. And that has nothing to do with the list, by the way, but just talking about Andrea's bargain hunting. Some people call it frugal. Some people call it cheap. Whatever you want to call it, she's really good at it. So she found these rings that she liked, and she put them in her shopping list, and she sent me her shopping list that she wanted for Christmas. And I ordered them, but they were coming out of China. And most products come out of China. I completely get that. But Amazon stocks warehouses differently than just ordering direct from a Chinese vendor. So in this case, they weren't stocked. These weren't stocked items. These were legit, had to go through China's, whatever the hell China Post is. There's a post service in China, like USPS. And no, forget it. You can just kiss your shit goodbye when it has to go through that delivery process. So, or kiss your shit a month after you expected to get it, like I've been doing this past week.
So if you're ordering straight from China, it's great prices, but
it's like 6 to 8 weeks.
Forever.
Yeah, it takes forever. We still don't have that little kitty cat coming out of a box to pick up a coin bank that we bought Alyssa like 2 Christmases ago from Amazon. We still don't have that. That thing still says pending.
Really?
Yeah, still don't have it.
I'm surprised Amazon hasn't automatically canceled it at this point.
They've offered many times to give us our money back and refund it. And I'm like, it wasn't expensive. I'm like, let's just see how this thing plays out. Let's see how long it takes.
You may never actually get it.
Oh yeah, I've already reviewed them bad and gave bad reviews to the shipper that supposedly has their service. No, it's ridiculous.
That shit's gone. Did I tell you guys what I just got for my grandma a couple weekends ago? Did it come up on the show?
Insert joke here. Can we throw in some ideas? The double ender. That's a double-ended dildo. No, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I got it. I just want to see how long you're going to talk about my grandma and sex toys.
A higher grade adhesive for her dentures.
Ooh, that's not bad.
That's
what
actually that would
what
be good. She
about
has all over her teeth though.
peel and stick eyebrows?
Stick eyebrows. That's a good one.
Good. A real life hair wig.
I am
that's not
really
bad.
glad that your wives do the gift shopping in your houses. Holy shit!
We could have gone all night with that.
No,
moo-moo.
I'm actually very, very proud of this gift. In fact, this might be one of the coolest gifts I've ever given. So, 30 years ago, my grandma wrote a book called Latageny, and it's really neat. It's got some personal significance in that I'm the main character. My sister's the second character in there, and it's a coming of age story. She meant it for us when we were in 5th or 6th grade range. It's just some cool morals that are imparted through the story. But she wrote it, and unfortunately, she sent it off to a few editors and a couple of publishers, and it was total rejection across the board.
Oh,
But it wasn't a total loss. There was advice. Hey, do these things, send it back, we'll edit again, whatever. Trying to get it published because, of course, 30 years ago it was a very different world.
sure. J.K. Rowling was denied for her first 3 or 4 publishers that she approached with the Harry Potter series.
Yeah, it was a scary bet right there on Harry Potter. But this book, it's never really gone anywhere. My sister and my mom read it to us as a kid. There's somewhere in the family right now, there's a binder that has it printed out, and it's just, cool. It was for us, and she dropped it, and I went and had 5 copies of it printed. So now we live in 2021, I guess 2020. Anyways, I went online. I found a site. They sent me a template. I structured everything into it, and they said, "All right, check it here because we're not." And they just sent it off to the printer, and they ended up coming out perfectly. It's everything I wanted it to be, and I made her cry. So,
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
I was.
This was paperback
that's
style
super
print.
awesome.
Would you?
Yeah,
Good for you.
It's all paperback.
awesome.
It's called perfect bound, which is basically where the spine is flat and the pages are adhered in versus spiral
cool.
bound or something. So they're just perfect bound into a flat. The cover is just flat blue. It just says Latageny, and it has her name printed on the bottom as the author. And you go in one page, and it's got on the
Preface? Preface?
it's not the preface. It's like the accreditation page, the copyright
yeah.
block. So all that's got her name and her information on there and stuff, and she just fucking lost it.
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it was
Aw,
awesome.
That's super cool.
Yeah, everybody loves making their grandma cry, for good reasons. You apparently want to make my grandma cry with sex toys, so
I don't want to make her cry at all.
you
If
are
you
no
know,
longer invited to family barbecues.
You know what I mean. Hey, speaking of sex, we haven't done a Twisted 10 list on sex in a while.
That's true.
We've been very geeky. We've been very highbrow. Highbrow might be a wrong choice of words.
And this list will be no different.
No, that's
No, I thought I was trying to steal.
no.
your joke.
This list is this list is going to be in the Let's Talk About Sex, baby.
Let's talk about you and me
Let's talk about all the good things
and the bad things.
that.
Maybe.
That's right. Let's talk about sex. Josh, that was an artist from the mid '90s. Just kidding.
I don't know the words, but I know the rhythm to the song.
You know, when you first asked the story about your grandmother, you first said about 30 years ago, I almost chimed in with something about Josh was born. Ironically, it tied to your
Yes.
grandmother talking about you and your sister. But all right, anyway, let's move on to this list. So before I give you the title, where do you guys think is the most, how should I phrase this question? What place in the world do you think is the most sexually not only open, but also active? Open by means of not hiding. Because we've often talked on this show about how our culture, the United States culture, the few hundred years that it is, it's still a culture, is very conservative when it comes to nudity or to conversations about sex or to the taboos that we consider them, and other cultures.
Catholic.
Yeah, well, sure, that's a good way to look at it. So what other places around the world do you guys think are very open and very active when it comes to sex? Heterosexual, homosexual, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm just talking about in general.
How narrow do you want our guests to be?
Let's regionalize it by country. So give me an idea of what country around the world do you think is very sexual? And Josh, you've traveled quite a bit. So you've been to a bunch of places, Europe, the whole European EMEA part of the world. You've been to the Middle East a little bit. Ron, you've been to Pompeii. So, I mean, there's that.
I know. I even know where mine.
But I mean, you're well-read. At least you're an educated man. So
Yeah, no. I'm thinking. Like, I have some thoughts. I just haven't landed on one yet. I'm trying to figure out, do I go to or stay away from the obvious? No, I don't even need an example. I understand where you're going with the question. It's a hard question to answer.
I see what you did there.
I would caution a starting guess with something very Western, something like America, because it's so integrated in everything. We talk about it as like some sort of prohibited shame thing, but it's everywhere. I mean, it's jarring when you travel and you go places and you're like, I haven't seen a scantily clad ad in like 6 weeks. What am I going to do? It's a culture shock to leave. But if I had to guess outside of that, the reason I asked about how narrow, I would actually say it's probably somewhere in Africa.
Okay.
I don't know many countries in Africa, but I would say it's somewhere in there because they have cultures that are very centric to bodies. I do know that.
Honorable mention for this list is going to be Nigeria. I'll throw that out there now.
Cool.
I'm going to say Germany.
Germany's not a bad guess. Not on the list.
Okay.
The list is just straightforward the top 10 sexual countries of the world.
Oh, cool.
As determined.
Great question. Glad you asked that, Ron. Almost like I set you up for that.
You wouldn't have told us.
There's a lot of different ways to gauge sex, all right, or sexualization in society and culture. There's a lot of different ways to gauge it. My gauge is based on a study that was done in 2018. So this is a couple years old, pre-pandemic, of course. Pandemic numbers, I'm sure, have driven sex through the roof in all of these countries because everybody's locked in with your husband's wives, significant others, whatever. So this was done in 2018 before the pandemic hit. And of course, I didn't write down the study. It was done by Durex, so the condom company. They're global. They're an international company, and they put forth the study. And it was just a very straightforward question. It wanted to know a couple of questions, but it wanted to know how often consenting adults, because adults does categorize here specifically because there is a lot of studies about adolescents' sexualization throughout the world. And there's a lot of things that I read in this research that I would care not to know, but I do know that now. Anyway, this is a consenting adults recognized as 18 or older throughout the world, how often they had sex, and how happy their sex lives were. So that's where the study came from. Indifferent, irreverent to sexual preferences, to sexual biases, to genders, to anything. It's just talking about sex. Now, oral sex does qualify for this. I'm going to point that out. So this isn't just intercourse.
Bill Clinton would not be pleased.
This is also referring to oral sex. So some of these numbers, percentages, etc., that I'm going to give you tie in both oral sex and traditional intercourse inside the same sexual act as far as this survey was considered.
Does a cigar count as sex?
What he did with it? Yes, it does. Good on you, Bill. Back when the days of politics, the most stressful thing to worry about is, did our president fuck his secretary?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Diddle he do it? I don't know.
Various factors can influence the average amount of sex by country. Religion demographics are incredibly important in this too. Now, I'm not going to deep dive any specific countries and their religions. I'll touch on one of them a little bit because it is pretty... I found something... I see what you did there. I found something out about this country that kind of shocked me, but so be it. So not only just religious demographics are important, history, the culture of the country, the upbringing, the strifes that they've had to overcome throughout their existence as a country, all of these factors influence the way certain countries think about sex. Percentages were from independent surveys globally and were updated. The last actual update to it was October 28th, 2020. So they did have an update to these numbers, but the original study where most of the meat came from was 2018. For the percentages, so this list is based on percentages, and the reference for this is from slice.ca. And I think it's important to point out because I do categorize these starting from the least out of the 10 to the most as far as how much they hook up, how much they have sex. So you guys ready? Kick this off?
Yeah.
And this is by country. So this is the top 10 countries that are doing it. Doing it and
history
doing it and doing
lesson
it real.
and
A little bit.
sex. Sign me up.
All right. Number 10, Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
So Mexico. Percentage of adults having sex at least once a week in Mexico. And this is our litmus. This is our bottom level. So let's start it off. What do you guys think? I want to ask you these every time because it doesn't go up a lot, but it does go up.
Percentage of adult consenting. Does this include like 80 years old?
Yeah,
80 years,
everybody.
okay.
Percentage of adults having sex at least once per week.
It was 63%.
Not a bad guess. Gonna go with Price is Right rules here.
62? $1?
No,
1%? No.
Josh won. So the percentage of adults having sex in Mexico at least once a week is 71%.
Holy shit! I need to update my survey.
See,
stats.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a lot or not until I start to hear the other countries and hope that somewhere in here you have the United States, or at least tell us what it is if it's not in the top 10.
Our Pan-American sunny neighbor to the south edges its way onto our top 10 list, with a close to 3/4 of its adult population making whoopee. We'd be curious to know what the other 29% were doing. Mexico squeaks into the top 10. While what is considered healthy sexual encounters is regular in Mexico, adolescent sexual behavior, and I told you I'd touch on this a little bit, adolescent sexual behavior is plentiful there as well. Multiple studies have been performed on many Latin cultures like Mexico that identify disparities between other countries around the world and some Latin cultures. That's from ncbi.nmlm.nih.gov. Probably can cut that out, but anyway, so I wanted to call that into concern here. Most of these countries where sex is prevalent, it doesn't stop there. It also carries into the adolescent ages. So
That would make sense.
The survey did have associations between ages 13 and 19 as well. They consider 13 and 19 the adolescent demographic. And some of these countries were off the charts for that. And personally, I've seen that, experienced that when I was living in Colombia. The culture is different for kids in other parts of the world than we're used to here. Acceptance of sexual acts at much younger ages than what we would be comfortable with is amazing in some Latin cultures, to include Colombia. So sexual activities start happening at like 14 in those parts of the world.
All of our perceptions of when you should have sex mentally are all learned behaviors from each other. Like, I know Josh has talked about not this particular subject, but how anything, just any perception we have of anything almost all, maybe all of it is learned behavior. So
yeah, it's nature versus
if
nurture.
everybody you're around thinks that just 14 is just when you have sex, just that's it. I mean, that it's not like, doesn't mean that they're wrong or we're wrong or what have you. It's just how they think.
Nature versus nurture is an interesting way to look at that. Nature, just looking at the non-laws of man, nature would have people having sex, 13, 14. Nurture or learned behavior or implied morals, I'm kind of stretching nurture a little bit there into implications of morals from society, does change that number for us pretty dramatically.
It does, yeah.
It's almost looked at as incredibly taboo for two 15-year-olds to be hooking up when in scientific terms, two consenting 15-year-olds together that's how the human body works. I mean, that's what they're...
I mean, without modern medicine, they're halfway done.
Yes.
I don't want to say that's what they're supposed to be doing, but...
I was literally thinking the same thing. Like, what if you were back in the time when you only lived to 30? Wait until you're 18? Come on.
That's a good point.
Wasting 3 good years. Or 10% of your life.
All right, let's move on. Number 9. Number 9. Country coming in at 72% of adults having sex at least once a week. So 1% above Mexico is Spain.
Spain.
The second Spanish-speaking country to make the list, Spain is a country full of culture and romance. It's not uncommon to see people socializing, meeting up for tapas, or engaging in public displays of affection. This one is kind of no surprise. So when you think of Spain, it's a very romantic culture. You can look back on it. Lots of these cultures that we're going to talk about here have a stereotype, to Americans at least, have a stereotype of being the romantic country. I'll tell you, France didn't make this list, by the way. Speaking of romantic countries, France did not make the list.
I believe that. Man, I had a good time in Spain. I got to watch 2 topless women make out on a beach. That was cool.
2 topless women making out on a beach?
Mm-hmm.
What percentage of people you got for countries that do that?
Yeah, I need that.
And do you have a good travel agent?
I like that. You were the guy. You were the guy that we talked about last week on the show with the pumpkin pie haircutted freaks.
Pumpkin pie haircutted freak.
We still don't remember that guy's name. Despite being a Catholic country, Spain's citizens, refreshingly, have little to no interest in upholding any kind of biblical law themselves, much less deciding what anyone else should be doing. There are no zealots here, and people understand, and I say no zealots loosely, this is partially the article talking, and people understand that you are what you are, and that is perfectly fine. Gay marriage is legal. In fact, I don't know that that was ever even debated in Spain. Sexual orientation is such a non-issue here, it is hard to explain to a North American how the word tolerance isn't used because it isn't needed. So this kind of goes to some of our other conversations in the past of where America focuses in on those political differences between us all to the point where we exhaust ourselves in litigation, in documentation, in laws, and language that's used in our look at Spain's a good example. They just accept everybody, at least according to these articles.
It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to be libertarian in that regard.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
Man, I liked Spain. I was in Ibiza though. It was a little different.
Ibiza is like the Las Vegas to the U.S., right? Isn't it like a world of its own?
Ah, man, it was a lot like Spain, Spain mainland, but it was. It lives up to its party reputation. I mean, they have every hotel, every hostel has a schedule that's put out by some council on the island. I forget the name, but everybody had the same list, and it was all of the clubs. There's two towns on the island, two prominent towns, the north side of the island, the south side. I forget their names, but there is a staggered headliner schedule for major DJs to start their residencies there for the summer or whatnot, and they'll have 6 weeks for the 6 major clubs in the north town because that's where we stayed. That's why I remember that. And they said major DJ names were starting this Saturday. They're starting. Nobody else on the island is having an event that night. And then same thing. Next weekend, there's another prominent DJ who's starting his residency. Nobody else is having major events. And they do that between the two towns, and then they also have their closeout schedule on the other end. So they don't fight with each other for big release nights. They were booked up party island. Everyone's going to show up. And the clubs were wonderful. We had a really great time in Ibiza.
I wouldn't mind going there.
Sounds fun.
A club with a foam party. They had to shut it down because the foam machine broke and there was foam coming out of the front door. It was wonderful. It was across the street from the club we ended up going to, Club X or something.
I've done one foam party. I've done one foam party in my life, and it was in Melbourne back when I was 22 at I don't even remember where it was. No, I take that back. It was at old school New York South in Cocoa Beach. Do you remember where that was?
Yes, I do.
So I don't know what it is now, but it's gone through many shades of club names, but at the time it was New York South. And dude, that was a lot of fun. I took two of my not girlfriends, but friends that were girls to that, and man, oh man, that was I had no idea what I was going to. They just had me come with them, and yeah, it was a foam party. For people who don't know what a foam party is, well, it's a big giant dance floor that usually they'll protect off with some sort of barrier, like a plastic barrier maybe? I don't know. Anyway, in the middle of this dance floor, they start dumping hundreds of gallons of foam. I mean, it's awesome. It is. You're in a giant bubble bath, no water on the floor, just it's very slippery, but you're in a gigantic bubble bath of bubbles, and it's hard to see, it's hard to breathe, but I don't know, you have some fun. And what happens below the foam stays below the foam.
Good to know. I've actually never made it to a foam party.
Really?
That was going to, we were going to go check out a foam party at a club, and that's why we were there, and they're like, yeah, we'll be back open here in a little bit. I said, I don't want to wait. I'm going to go next door and start dancing.
You ready for number 8?
Yes.
Number 8.
Coming in with 72% as well. So tied for number 9, Switzerland.
Neutral sex. I'm sorry. I was about to say neutral sex.
Oh, I was going to say neutral Switzerland. But neutral Switzerland is definitely not on the fence with this one. Close to 3/4 of its population clearly has a preference for the healthy sex life. Around half of the Swiss surveyed said that less stress and tiredness would mean more frolicking in the bedroom. They thought a bit more fun and romance would not go amiss as well. So part of this extended survey also asked what makes people think that their country is doing well or poorly in the sexual appetite of their citizens. And the Swiss just basically said, yeah, dude, we're just fucking chill here. We're not very tired and we're not very stressed. So that leads us to have happy sex lives. And we all look like Greek goddesses. So there's that.
That helps.
Yeah.
That helps. Nobody's trying to fight them.
Think there's any fat, ugly Swiss people?
Probably.
I would be.
Yeah. Probably not the norm though, like in America.
I wouldn't think so.
Shit, like in this fucking podcast room. I mean, let's face it.
2 out of 3 of us
Two
are
out of
ugly.
3 of us are fat and ugly. Yeah.
I'll let you guess who the one is.
It's
Adam.
Josh's locks.
It's my
Not
locks.
Josh.
It's
Just his locks.
It's my locks.
Have you guys ever been to Switzerland before?
Hey,
I've not.
Been to Palm Bay.
You've never been outside of the U.S., have you, Ron?
No.
Have you been? What about
I've been
other
to
states?
I've been to other states besides
Okay.
Florida.
Where's the farthest away that you have been? I'm curious now.
I've been to California. I've been to LA. But
Oh, that's
I
cool.
didn't really get to experience it. Was for like a meeting for work. So I was like, I didn't really get to go, see LA. And apparently we tried to, like, when we first got there before the meetings, we tried to, as a group of us, go and walk around and realize quickly they put us in a hotel that was not in the best part of town. Even though it was a really big hotel, like with a convention center and stuff, it wasn't exactly like, it didn't take long to walk into, like, all of a sudden we're looking around and my district manager was like, well, I think we should probably start walking back now. I don't think we're in a great part of town.
Ron,
So,
how was your trip to L.A.? Lost my shoes, got stabbed twice. Feels great.
So I have been to LA, which is, pretty far away. However, I didn't get to really experience it. But I think it's not just where I've been as much as I just haven't been a lot of different places, and I don't hardly travel like at all. Just a few out-of-state vacations in my life, and most of those have been Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Where would you
Lord,
want
I've
to
really
go?
been real stupid.
In the world?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wait till he gets to number 1 on the list, then he'll pick there.
yeah. Nice. What he said. No, absolutely. I guess Venice, Italy. That's where I want to go the most. But Italy in general, but specifically Venice.
Italy was cool.
That's where me and my wife. That's like our dream vacation. Hopefully, maybe in the next 5 to 10
Isn't
years.
Venice where the water level has risen? So there's streets.
Yeah,
They have the gondola?
the water streets.
It's gondolas. It's not
Yeah,
that the water level
gondolas.
has risen. It was built out that way.
They just designed it that way.
Half of it's only half of Venice as well. Actually, it's less than half now. Most of Venice is on mainland now. It's just called Venice Main and then Venice.
So it's like a downtown district almost? Is it like a...
Yeah, I mean it's
Is this the touristy part where people want to go get on gondolas and listen to a guy sing?
Yes, that's when you think of Venice. That's what you think.
Yeah,
of.
that's what I think of,
about
yeah.
2 people in a gondola in a water street in a city with buildings to the left and right, and a dude standing on there singing, and bringing you through it.
Ricola.
Yeah, Ricola. No, you just did Ricola. Wasn't that Switzerland?
and
Oh, yeah. It was
I do gotta say though, the whole gondola thing was not. It wasn't over the top. It really wasn't. It was there. I mean, there were several places to launch, but to get a gondola for just a gondola tour, there's a bunch of waterways. That's the point. To get a gondola tour of all the main places, because there is a ton of history in that part of Venice. That is really what's worth going. There's, I'm sorry. So the gondolas, it was like $80 if I remember right for like a half-hour tour per person to go on a gondola, and that wasn't private. So you had to pay for all of the seats to get on the gondola, and then if you wanted him to sing, that was more money. So you had to. So it's fine. I get it's very prominent.
It's a racket.
There were lines.
Yeah,
It was really cool to see. We walked up and we said, "Yeah, that's a gondola. That's a gondolier. That's a price we're not paying. Let's just walk the sidewalk along the water. You want to do that?
Can we hear him from the sidewalk? Yeah.
Mind
There we
you,
go.
one quick little thing. It's $130 to do the gondola ride through Venice in the hotel in Las Vegas.
$100.
Really?
$130. We were totally gonna do it, and we were like, That's $130. We'll just go walk around and play some slots.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. So when you say $80 per person for the actual Venice, now that I see what they kind of removed my sticker shock with that one.
Number 7.
Number 7.
7.
Moving on up, not to the east side. Well, I take that back. Technically, this is to the east. This country, adults having sex at least once a week is at 74%. So we're moving higher. We were at 72 before. This is Malaysia. Venturing further east, multicultural Malaysia is also one of the best countries to live and work abroad. In that ranking, it scored 6th in making friends, and so it's not surprising that some of these friends become more than just friends. So the research on the Malaysia sexual culture took kind of a dive, and I'm going to focus in on this a little bit. We understand that out of the survey, people answered, and we have the 74% statistic. But there's actually something very interesting. This is the only country that really touches on this in this top 10 list. Malaysia is mostly Islamic and adheres to Sharia law. Have you ever heard of FGM before? Female genital mutilation. And they call it mutilation. This is according to the particular article I read. It's practiced in Malaysia with an estimated of more than 90% of women from the Muslim families having undergone the practice. Reasons cited for the performance of FGM include religious obligation as the highest reason why, and then hygiene, cultural practices, and the belief that it prevents premarital sex. However, this form of FGM practiced in this country is not as severe as in other parts of the world, such as Northeast Africa, and is reported to only consist of a minor cut. Now, do you guys know what this is? This was kind of hard to read through, but
I mean,
this is
I know I know what the words mean together. I don't know what they do in Malaysia that's different than.
Well, I guess it all focuses around, it's like the female version of circumcision. Mm-hmm. So in boys, you get the foreskin cut off for purposes of either religious belief or for your thought that it could have something. We've talked about this before in the past for thought of, what's what I'm looking for here? Cleanliness.
Hygiene?
Hygiene, thank you. For females, it deals with the clitoris. And it has to do with removing, in some cases, if not hindering, the sensitivity. And I just found that pretty shocking. For a country that is boastful about its sex life, they do have, to us, what might be considered some barbaric things.
A little misogynist there.
Sharia in general, you got to be careful about it because it is very sensitive because it is a religion, and I respect the religion, but in our perspective, yes, the Sharia law is very male oriented and male dominated and driven,
male-centric.
So yeah, Sharia law allows for a man to have up to four wives as long as he can balance the benefit balance versus like income equality. He's got to be able to prove.
He's got to be able to afford it.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah, women's rights. And there were some good things that I read on the study as well. So women's rights in Malaysia specifically, but also some other countries that still practice Sharia, are actually becoming more modern. So while they still have to, it's still written in law that the obeying of the husband has to be, et cetera, et cetera. There are still some recognitions that are being given to them for other aspects of their culture. So owning businesses, owning property, driving, the things that we take for granted in America and other, I don't want to say civilized because it's a bad comparison. I'm trying to touch this, walking on eggshells with this. I don't want to upset a culture of people that might listen. However, the things that we take for granted, they're just now beginning to allow in those types of governed areas. But yeah, so that's Malaysia. It's the only one that I'm going to touch on that has Sharia law that's dominating.
That's good.
That's fair, yeah.
But they rank in the list, baby. There's 74% of them are banging. So at least once a week.
It's that prohibition mentality.
They're having unsatisfactory intercourse with their husbands.
74%. So I began to do other lists because of this one, and the enjoyment of sex was also another list that the study had. Like, are you pleased with your section? That is duration. Give us a duration count. So some of these places have sex for like 55 minutes on the average of sex. That's a lot of sex.
They don't have kids.
So it's funny that you say that. There are other parts of the same study that deal with sexual satisfaction as being part of it as well.
Okay.
I didn't focus on that at all. Because as long as the guy's happy, I mean, all right.
Whoa.
Just kidding. Number 6.
Number 6.
Coming in, get it, at 76%. So now we have crossed the 3/4 threshold. We're going to Poland.
Apple.
Holding steady at halfway up the list, Poland is one of the most affordable destinations in Europe. A fascinating mix of traditional and modern. We're willing to bet that sexy time is just one way, a likely favorite way, to keep warm in the cold winter months. According to, and I'm not going to even, let's give him a shot. Tomasz, T-O-M-A-S-Z, Tomasz Kowalski of Opel University.
Hey, that sounded good.
Yeah, no, not too bad. Erotica was taboo in the official media market during the communist era, with sexually explicit material circulating solely on the black market. Pornography became legal in Poland in 1998. Very modern. With the first modern meaning recent, I guess. With the first erotic trade show held in September of the same year. However, the domestic production of pornography has never taken off in Poland, unlike neighboring Hungary and the Czech Republic. So sexual awakenings, I guess is the best way to put it, didn't start happening in that country till the mid to late 90s.
Man,
which is amazing to me.
If I needed another reason to hate communism.
they won't let you have pornography. Damn commies. There are a couple of communist countries in this list. One of them we haven't even talked about yet.
I believe that 100%. You tell a large mob of people that they can't do something. You know what they're going to do? That fucking thing when you're not looking. That's how that shit works.
Then they're doing it secretly, which makes it even hotter and makes them want to do it more.
There's a whole category of sex called taboo. I watch that every once in a while. I get creeped out halfway through it, but I'll still finish.
Is that your number one country? Finland? Finnish?
Oh, I see what you did there.
That's
pretty decent.
I was going to ask you a question. You said there's a category of you mean like taboo porn?
There's a category of porn called taboo. Yeah.
Can you give like one mild example of what would be in there?
Oh yeah, like MILFs banging their son's friend.
Oh, I think we touched on this.
Stacey's mom. Yeah,
has got it going on. We touched on this before about the whole. They're always trying to find the weirdest combination they could where they're still allowed to consent. So you get a lot of
like teacher student, as long as the student is
exactly. There's that.
Siblings, step parents,
straight up sister and brother, mom and because even though it's just it's gross and disgusting, Josh had mentioned this months ago, long time ago, that they're allowed to consent. So it's all about if you're allowed to legally consent, they're going to make some kind of weird porn around it.
Yeah, because I mean, how do I put this? I don't watch it for the plot. Ends with I fucked my stepbrother. I just don't care. Let's boner kill.
Yeah, I agree. I agree totally.
For more boner kill, we'll be back after the break with the top 5 countries who were porking. All right, we'll be right back.
I think they play safe bets that I never get this off my chest. But since then I learned better, though it took me forever. Born and raised in a pasture until family disaster. The only other road went straight southern for the East Coast. But ever since that I arrived, all they talk about was leaving. And I could care less about some changing of the seasons. And they ain't never lived nowhere, they thought that it was freezing. They don't know what they believe in. I never change a thing because you see me all the way till the judgment day. In the city, as by the sea, that's where I should be. And if it's drowning, well, I'll be swimming just a big disguise. My friends I thought they were the best, they ended up telling me lies. I guess I gotta live with what I'm given and deal with my decisions. But I'm tired of people living like it's only their perspective. Tell me, baby, what you think about the beaches I live in. The ocean ain't the place for you bitching and complaining. The song remains the same cause it's up on every station. Oh, for the sun, wind and rain. Tell me if I should change, because I sure love the way that I'm living today. In the city, as by the sea, that's right, where I should be. And if it's drowning, oh, I'll be swimming. In the city, as by the sea.
And welcome back to the Twisted 10. So I'm going to recap the top 10 sexual countries for you and their percentages.
Before you recap, can I ask you a question? I don't think we did ask this. Maybe I missed it. Is there a twist with this list?
Oh, good question. No, not really. I've got some bonus lists at the end.
You said bonus.
That might fill in some missing countries to you.
He said fill in. Okay, go ahead.
Number 10, Mexico at 71%. Number 9 was Spain at 72%. And those percentages, again, are of adults having sex at least once a week. Number 8 was Switzerland at 72. Number 7 was Malaysia at 74. And then rounding up number 6 into the above the 3/4 mark was Poland at 76%. Boinkin.
Man. So I had two thoughts while we took that quick break. The first, something that we neglected to do early in the show. Big thank you to our patrons,
Good call.
Patreon. You guys rock. So thanks as always. If you guys want to check that out in the after show and some of the cool stuff, you can find that patreon.com/twisted10. And of course, to those listening to us on Discord right now, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening to the show live. It's fun chatting with you guys during break and stuff. Sorry, and I realized we didn't say that earlier. And
No, good call. How do they get to Discord?
Right. You can go to our website, twisted10.com. You'll have a little pop-up bar on the bottom. It'll say, join here, Discord, big letters. So
You can come in there anonymous too. Come in there. You can join Discord anonymously. You don't have to register your name or anything like that. So you can be whoever you want to be in our Discord.
yeah, it just comes, it's like Yelp reviews, but we'll actually, read them because we're there.
And we'll respond. Usually we'll respond.
But I also had a question.
Yeah, shoot.
You mentioned before you started the whole list that this was a collection of independent surveys that was sponsored by Durex.
I think it was...
Or Durex collected the information, kind of aggregated.
Yeah, I think it's instigated by Durex would probably be the best way to
Target
look
their
at it.
advertising.
Yeah, no.
Well, yeah, for sure.
That makes perfect sense. So my question was to use kind of a more media analogy. If you were to present a poll on foxnews.com, you can expect a certain swing of bias versus that same poll on CNN. You would expect a different sort of bias, whatever it is. So are these survey results coming in? Are they paneling people specifically about like condoms? Was it like on Durex.com in countries, or is it just general sexual health surveys done by? I know you referenced a .gov website earlier.
No, some of these other links that I'll talk about during the readings are just other references of material that I came across. Damn it, it's sexual innuendos. I keep doing it, Ron.
Came across.
No, so to your point, good data, like as a database manager, shit data in means shit data out. All right. So unless you have good data, your poll, your survey, your database, your whatever you're using is garbage. So it's got to be relative to the audience that's going to be receiving the information.
One of the biggest things when you're doing, because from just like polling, like political polling, what have you, is Are you reaching different demographics of your
Right.
age group? That's a big one. And you may be reaching them at disproportionate levels, which will really throw it off. And then also, how are you posing the questions you're asking?
Yeah. You're
Those are
100%
big.
right.
There's many leading or answer, like kind of almost telling them, forcing them to answer a certain way. I would think, and I was thinking about this a second ago, because Durex is doing this probably because they need really fucking accurate information because they don't want to be throwing money away advertising in one way or another in a spot they don't need to be. So I would think it would be about as unbiased and professional type of polling or scientific polling probably that you maybe could buy.
So I would say the unbiased approach is correct here to label Durex and this particular survey or set of surveys as unbiased. I would be willing to bet that they don't want bias in their surveys. Now, with that being said, to Josh's point, this was an online set of surveys. All right, they weren't mall walkers with clipboards,
which
or
in general means
person.
they're not as scientific as they could be.
Scientific is one thing. There is a digital divide between elderly and younger generations. All right. So I'd say 65 and below at this point are pretty comfortable on the internet, at least in the US, or different parts of the world may not have that same level of comfort. So your difference here, your disparity here, Josh, is people in the parts of the world that the survey reached are the technologically connected people. All right, so there is a percentage of the population out there somewhere in the nebulous that don't get online, that don't check Facebook, that don't give a shit about anything to do with what drives a survey like this. They would never have seen it. So there is a margin of error there. What that is, I couldn't tell you.
That's fine.
But we just have to understand that the people that are listening to this show are perfectly in the target demographic for
You're right there.
for the results. Because if they can hear this show, then they would have been susceptible to the questionnaire at one point or another as well.
It's not like they're going to, asking a bunch of 20-year-olds at a music festival, are you having sex regularly? Yeah, dude, all the time. I've had sex 4 times today.
I just had sex while we were talking.
I will throw in a bonus. So 6 and then to 5, I'm going to add in a 5.5 in there. So this is number 5.5. This is your bonus for the show. The survey results that came in were actually pretty staggering for this, and I do want to caveat it a little bit that the survey results for the percentage of adults that were having sex was 99%. Do you know what that group was? Listeners of the Twisted 10.
Whoa.
That's the 5.5.
I thought we weren't going to talk about those results.
See what I did there?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Number 5.
I don't at all, actually. Can you rewind it and replay it?
Number 5. This also ties with number 6 at 76% of the country of adults having sex at least once a week is probably one of the most romantic countries on this list, in my opinion, at least by my raising, Italy.
Italy.
Not the last Latin language country on my list. Italy slides into the top half, with it being one of the best food and wine destinations in the world. I'm thinking there must be a link. As they say, the quickest way to someone's heart is through their stomach. From the 19th century hotbed of sexual tourism to the 20th century idyllic scenario, and forgive me on this pronunciation, of
Guacamole?
This is the name of a book. Guadagnino's steamy romance, call me by your name, unquote. Italy has been cast globally as an imaginary site of sexual freedom. Throughout the 20th century, Italy's sexual culture and mores have been shaped more by a climate of discretion, secrecy, and scandals than by overt identity politics. However, between the early 70s and the first Rome Pride in 2000, an Italian movement of sexual activism featuring activists, writers, and artists have impacted globally the ways in which we experience and talk about bodies, desires, and sexual identities nowadays. And that's from an EDU site, wgss.wusti.edu. Sorry, that was a bad recap of that. Anyway, Italy had a sexual awakening basically starting in the 70s to modern day culture as we see it now. So prior to that, they were very secretive, very seclusive, very taboo about discussing and talking about sexuality in an open way, as were most cultures around the world. Before the 70s, it was merely before the 60s, it was very, very hush-hush. What you did in the bedroom never got talked about outside those four walls.
I wonder if that lines up, because they had a really lengthy civil war through the 20th century. So it wrapped up sometime around then. I don't know exactly when their civil war ended. I wonder if that's somehow related. Like, cool, peace in the peninsula. Let's start fucking.
I don't know. My entire life, Italy has always been a romantic destination. My entire life, it's always been that way.
It delivered. It absolutely. I mean, I talked about it earlier. We spent like a week and a half of our month in Europe, in Italy. We loved it. We loved every bit of it.
There's a theme going on here. Seems like a lot of the European nations are very open and sexually expressive.
Yeah.
Did Josh enjoy his time in Diddley?
I did. I had a great time in Italy.
Little did we know we diddle some middlemen who didn't do diddly. Sorry. That's a rap lyric. It has Italy in it. Whatever.
I'm impressed. They got Vanilla Isis over there wrapping it up.
Vanilla Isis.
Wow. So,
sorry.
Brutal.
So something I do remember, to keep it on brand, we did a lot of really great touristy stuff. I saw a lot of cool landmarks, whatever. But what I do remember is at our hostel that we had, and only because we were a block or 2 blocks away from the Vatican City. We were very close. It was awesome. But our hostel, when you walked in, or not our hostel, our hotel, I apologize. Our hotel had one open room, and then there was one side toilet closet with a door that closed, mostly. And then the shower was one length of the wall, and it was just all glass. And there was your sink and your shower and everything. Your get ready space was in like this wet room, but the whole thing was just exposed to the room. So it was perfect. I definitely had a 76% of consenting adult sexual experience in Italy.
So 76% of the people that you banged there were consenting? Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's at least you're, higher than average, I guess. I guess that's a good thing. Are you noticing a country that's not making the list so far?
The United States.
Yeah, not yet. Ready for number 4?
Yeah.
This one's going to throw you for a loop because it definitely threw me for a loop. Not for the fact that these people are fucking. I got it. I understand that they're fucking, but I'm surprised that the data made it to us. Where do you think I'm talking about?
China.
China is number 4. China is at 78% of adults having sex at least once a week. With such vast and diverse landscapes and thrilling metropolitan areas, there's something for everyone in China. Fun fact, the country also boasts one of the biggest concentration of billionaires, and if freedom from financial stress isn't an aphrodisiac, I don't know what is. Sexuality in China has undergone a revolutionary change, and this, quote, sexual revolution still continues today. Chinese sexual attitudes, behaviors, ideology, and relations have changed dramatically in the past decade of reform and opening up of the country. Many of these changes have found expression in the public forum through a variety of behaviors and ideas. These include, but are not limited to, the following cultural shifts: a separation of sex and marriage. And keep in mind, this is China. This is a very, very government-controlled communist state. So separation of sex and marriage is a humongous thing to be accepting of, at least by the government. Pre- and extramarital sex, a separation of sex from love and childbearing, such as internet sex and one-night stands, an increase in observable sexual diversity, such as homosexual, bisexual behavior, and fetishism, an increase in socially acceptable displays and behaviors of female sexual desire. So that's very interesting. The repression of, or I guess suppression of the female sexual desire in China has always been there. Suppressed female sexual thoughts has been the mindset, I guess. A boom in the sex industry, and a more open discussion of sex topics, including sex studies at colleges, media reports, formal publications, and online information. So the government is really loosening the control of what the citizens of China should think and how they should talk and communicate about sex all around the gambit. So that is leading to things like this study maybe have been able to penetrate the country and we garner that information from them about their sexual habits.
Man, I wonder if they just lost that fight. They're like, well, there's fucking 2.5 billion of you, or I don't know the population of China, but it's like, well,
it's up there with India, so I think it's 1 billion or more.
Oh, it's probably more like 2 billion in China by now.
You really think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Man,
gotta be close to it. Here, I'll look it up while you guys are talking.
All right. I got a little bit more. China no longer exerts strict control over personal sexual behavior. Sex is increasingly considered something personal and can now be differentiated from traditional system that feature legalized marital sex and legal controls over childbirth. Think about that term for a minute. Legal controls over childbirth. So population control. I don't want to speculate over what other controls might be in there, but at least we know that the child number of children per family is something that they have talked about in the past.
Yeah, it's greater than 1 now.
Yeah.
Population.
I mean, that's like a big deal. I mean, that was so many children in China were murdered because of the government's rules that it shifted the global gender demographic. A very small amount, of course, but so many female children were put to death in China over the however many years you were only allowed to have one, that it skewed the global demographic because they have such a large percentage of the population.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
It's unfortunate and awful.
1.4 billion.
There you go.
And it's like 1.36 billion in India. So they're gaining ground.
Damn. 3 billion people out of our 7.5 billion people are in 2 countries.
Yep.
Man. So funny. Adam, I know you know her. Our friend Joelle, she has a sister who lives in China. She's actually, given more modern context, she's about an hour away from Wuhan. So her year has been interesting.
She started it, didn't she?
Yeah, it was all her. We found her. We found it. But so Joelle, only because it's relevant to the story. She's very tall, very pasty white, very blonde, and very attractive. She had a hard time when she went. I guess she hasn't been there in a while, but when she goes to see her sister, it's a struggle to go out and do things.
She's like, an eyesore or an attraction.
It's wild. She said it was, in no exaggeration, she works out, so she's at the gym, and men stopped working out to surround and watch her exercise.
Creepy.
Yeah, she said it was described as not. I mean, it was creepy by our standards, but she said to them it was a sense of celebrity. Entitlement. Oh. No, not to her. That they felt entitled to watch her because she was a woman, that they could just stop and stare at her.
I figured they would the perspective of like celebrity status was given to her because she was as equivalent to them as seeing, a famous person walking by.
I see. Yeah, she has also said the same thing. Walking around as a tall white person in China who's obviously an American just got her a lot of attention. People just walk up and take pictures with her.
Yep. Our good friend Tall Trey Comedy had that happen to him a couple places, right? Because of how tall he was?
Yeah, he gets that all the time.
Dude's like 11 foot 4 inches. He's huge.
He's 6'7". He's 5 foot 19 inches.
5 foot 19 inches. I like that. So I'm 6 foot exactly. So in Colombia, and Josh, you've been all over the world. Ron, the few places that we've been, some like the average height of people in some of these other locations is vastly different from the average height inside the U.S. Walking into Colombia is not disconnected sociopolitically from the rest of the world. They're very hotbed of travel and tourism as well, but I still felt like a fucking beast down there, and I'm not that tall. I walk through the airport and it's just my head is at like what I feel like Trey would probably be like here, looking over the top of everybody, and I would get the looks. I look like a fucking gringo anyway, so I would get the looks like, oh, there's an American walking by right there. The guys would hate me and the girls would like me, which was, I was all right with that.
Yeah. Be worse places to go, I guess.
Yeah, South America, that's a place I haven't made it to yet. Not for any particular reason.
I will tell you, right out of Miami, it's a 3-hour flight to Bogota, Bogota.
Bogota.
And there's an Enye or asterisk or something over the A. I don't know what that special character is called. Umlet or some shit. I don't know. Bogota is actually really nice. There's some places in Bogota you can't go, like meaning you shouldn't go, like downtown Bogota. As an American, that's a big no-no. You don't want to just walk through downtown Bogota. But other parts of Bogota, like up in the Usaquén district, up in near the mountains and stuff, it is absolutely beautiful, number one. But you as an American, especially going out at night or out during the day to participate in the economy, buy food, buy services, buy whatever, you are reveled because they know that you're coming with money. It just is what it is. You're recognized as somebody that has money.
Having them fat stacks.
Yeah, as long as you're not by yourself, you'll probably be all right. You just got to be careful.
Man, isn't Bogota where they developed the new steal all the money in your bank account drug? And I don't remember the name of it. That's not a joke. It's a flower or something.
Drug.
They can like they dry it and crumble it up, and they can like blow it in your face, and you just become immediately
zombified or something.
It's not you become amicable to any request. So they have a sting in Bogota where they'll just hit you with this powder and be like, all right, we're gonna go to an ATM and you're gonna withdraw everything you can.
See, there's something that would make me amicable to all requests too as a gun. If they just held a gun and be like, all right, let's go.
That would fucking do the trick.
Yeah, they in Bogota, the State Department actually, when we were down there, told us about this. That there's a term. I don't remember what it is now, but it was it had like it's the ATM hustle. And what they would do is in Bogota doesn't quite work the same way that the states work. In Bogota, you have a limit per ATM to withdraw, not per day of your bank account to withdraw.
Okay.
So these gangsters, thugs, whatever you want to call them, would kidnap somebody, take them on the ATM crawl to all these different ATMs, and then once your card stopped working, that's where they killed you. So after your card finished giving them money, that's where they would, let you meet your maker.
Man.
But yeah. So it's a great place to visit, Ron. It's
Hey, I can't wait to go.
No, it is. It is. But Bogota's, it's a city of 10 million people. So you're going to have city crime.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Speaking of city crime, I have no way to tie that country to this one. Anyway, number 3.
Number 3.
Coming in the 80s, 80% of adults having sex at least once or more per week. We're going EMEA area again. So the European continent over there. Where do you think this next country? It's a big country. Big.
Russia?
You got it. You guys nailed it. Russia. Russia is number 3 at 80%.
I'd nail a Russian. Sorry, what?
I bet he'd like it. While Russia's harsh winters can be off-putting to those unaccustomed to the bite,
He's putting his dick in it. Sorry. All right.
That was worth it. That was worth the interrupt. It's okay. The world's largest nation is among the top 3 most sexually active countries. Did we mention that one of its famed residents, Mikhail Prokhorov, also happens to be one of the top world's billionaires who are single and ready to mingle? So, ladies?
Fuck, hang on a second. I can be free for the wealthiest dude in the world.
Yeah, one of the most wealthy billionaires in the world. Objections to the trend towards sexual liberation are concentrated in the older generations, talking about Russian citizens. In surveys, younger and better educated Russians generally voice approval, and new enterprises selling cosmetics, high fashion clothing, and health products play to the new public interest of attractive display of the human body, speaking about sexuality in Russia. The individuality implicit in such marketing, and especially obvious to the new Russian youth culture, is a drastic change from the strict standards of dress and grooming imposed in the Soviet era. The wearing of shorts, for example, only was accepted in Russia in the 1980s. So Russia has come a long way since the Soviet era, since the 80s.
They've come a long way sexually, but one place they have not.
Oh, here's the joke.
No joke.
Here it is.
Is like homosexuality is still, dude, they're hundreds of years behind. Like they're so far on the other side with it. Everything in that world has to be completely secret. I'm not 100% sure that it's criminal, but I think it's damn close. if not outright criminal, to be homosexual in Russia.
So their culture is probably, is it frowning upon other forms of non-heterosexual sex as well? So the LGBTQ community, those types of things as well?
I would imagine so. I mean, you'd think, some kind of...
Is it cool for girls, for lesbians, but not for homosexuals?
No, neither.
Okay. Huh, really? That's interesting. It's a little bit depressing, to be honest,
yeah,
to think about it too.
Be a lot cooler if they did.
Were you looking something up?
I was going to look to see up if it was actually illegal.
All right, you're going to have to pay me $10 to not tell your wife to check your browser history.
I even looked up Polish porn. All right, let's see. Here it is. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people in Russia face legal and social challenges not experienced by non-LGBT persons. Although same-sex sexual activity between consenting adults in private was decriminalized in 1993, homosexuality is disapproved of by most Russians, and same-sex couples and households headed by same-sex couples are ineligible for the legal protections available to opposite-sex couples.
Wow, really?
Yeah, there are currently no separate laws prohibiting discrimination based on sexual orientation in Russia. Transgender people are allowed to change their legal gender following sex reassignment surgery. However, there are currently no laws prohibiting discrimination based on discrimination based on gender identity or expression. Discrimination based on gender identity or expression, and recent laws could discriminate against transgender residents. So, as you see, their sexuality, opposite sex, maybe about it, but I tell you what, same sex and all that still considered extremely taboo by
Well, they're
most.
not saying it's wrong. They just aren't affording the LGBTQ community the rights that their heterosexuals have.
Absolutely. And
No protections under the law.
It wasn't just that. There was a lot of rights just for same sex, right? Just same sex like relationships and things like that. It's
Get your shit together, Russia.
it's pretty messed up, man.
But it sounds like, by what you were saying, that sort of hate is going to die off. And I mean that in a literal sense. It'll just, as that generation starts to pass away, the younger, more educated, I shouldn't say that the older generation it isn't educated, but the younger, more socially
modernly
aware,
educated?
more progressive younger generation will just inevitably come into power.
So isn't it interesting what shapes our laws and I guess this is not interesting to people who study this shit, but the law doesn't happen first. It's social acceptance and social request for change that drives how the laws function. Look at weed as an example, worldwide, globally. Yeah. Look at weed. Weed is falling off the radar of being anything that's bad across the entire world because the society and culture says, guys, it's not bad. There's nothing wrong with this product. It doesn't cause any kind of addictive, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. You know the argument. I won't go down it again. But the weed culture is what's shaping marijuana-based laws around the world. And it's succeeding. So same thing here. Maybe the citizens in Russia and these movements that are starting to happen for acceptance and tolerance will be what drives the laws for support in Russia at a later point. We'll be having this conversation in 10 years being like, yeah, Russia just allowed gay marriage in 2028.
Yeah, Russia, Moscow's first Pride Parade.
Yeah, exactly. Number two. 82% of this country's adults are having sex at least once a week. I'll give you a couple hints, see if you can guess the country. It's a Latin-based country. One that's a very obvious one to me, but it's a Latin-based country. Latin America specifically.
Brazil.
Bingo, lollipop, home of Carnival.
Man, them booties, though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, there's more to Brazil than booties, but...
You know what, though?
But there doesn't need to be.
When you put it on...
it's good enough on its own.
When you put it on display the way that they do with Carnival and how that whole caricature of itself has become... What it has turned into, it's okay to talk about their booties.
It's Brazil's official
acceptable.
Number one... what the hell was I going to say? Number
Export.
Number one resource.
Booty?
Yeah, booty.
The land of samba and caipirinhas. That's type of drink.
Is it German? Caipirinhas?
Maybe how I said it. Brazil is just one of the best places to attend Carnival, with its beautiful beaches. It is
baby. Some beautiful beaches there.
I see what you did. It is one of the destinations for sun worshippers. At night, though, it becomes a party paradise. We saw this one coming a kilometer away.
That's impressive.
Beautiful women wearing tiny bikinis line the beach while shirtless men play samba in the street. The jungle hums in the background, and Christ the Redeemer stands over it all, forgiving everyone for their sins. Even though Brazil doesn't necessarily have more sun and sex than Ibiza, and not every beach has more sculpted bodies per square meter than Miami, statistics bear out that Brazil truly has the potential to be the straight single man's paradise, with the CIA World Fact Book stating there are 97 men to every 100 women in Brazil, which is kind of an unusual statistic thrown here at this point, but that number is usually a little lopsided towards men to women in a lot of the parts of the world. But 97 to 100 down there. As Culture Trip writes, this is an article, in a country that simply oozes sexuality, sensuality, and a fun-loving spirit, dating in Brazil can be relatively easy. So far, so good. However, while casual hookups are pretty straightforward, making it last long-term can be a bit trickier, the travel website writes. So there were these... It was hard not to get trapped into a how to date somebody in the country that you're researching topic as I was looking through a lot of these statistics and information. Every time I looked up like Brazil's sexuality and culture or something like that, either you would get all of the bad shit right up front, like all of the rapes and, sexual related crimes and statistics right up front from like travel advisories, or you would get these places that are trying to promote dating cultures in the areas. While that's not necessarily bad, I didn't necessarily want to read it, but that woman did write a pretty good article from Culture Trip, so she did a pretty good job. So yeah, number 2 is oh shit, I almost said number 1. Number 2 is Brazil. Never been to Brazil. I want to go there.
This whole list has made me want to go and watch Anthony Bourdain's show, Parts Unknown, the late Bourdain. Man. And really what drove it home was that drink that you mentioned.
Yeah, Kappa.
He says it several times. He goes and, gets the iconic thing.
It's spelled CAIPIRINHAS. So Caipirinhas? There's some Latin-speaking friends of ours that are listeners to the show that are going, fuck you, Adam. You have no understanding how this dialect is supposed to sound. You're an idiot. And I agree with you and applaud you for that comment.
Yeah, Brazil, it's another one. I'd love to go because their culture seems pretty fun.
Yeah.
And I mean that, like, for all the reasons you just stated, just...
You want to go there for the women of Carnival?
Yeah, I want to go there for the skewed ratio, just...
I want to go there too. So I want to experience the culture, not in a sexual manner, but I do want to go to Carnival. Yeah. I do want to see the parade of parades, the parade that the world tries to accomplish. Every Mardi Gras parade in every little podunk city in the whole world pales in comparison to what is Carnival. Yeah. Those people know how to fucking parade, and that's what I want to go see.
Once a year they do that, or?
Carnival? Yeah.
I think so. I think Carnival is once, but it's like a week long, so it's not just
kind of like Mardi Gras, but
yeah, it's not here comes the parade. Okay, let's go home. No, it's a week long
like
celebration.
A Disney parade.
No, they don't have
the
one.
Lights. Okay, now we got to walk to our car.
If it was like a Disney parade, Minnie Mouse is way hotter in Brazil. All right, way hotter. Her ears are all right. Anyway. All right, you guys ready for number 1? Wrapping up this list. All right, so our jumps so far, let's go through the last cut. So it started at 71% of adults having sex. In Mexico, made it all the way up to Brazil at 82. So, and, there's 11 percentage points there. It's spread out throughout those 9 different ones. This one, number 1, jumps from 82, which was Brazil, up to 87. Whoa. 87% of the adults in this country have sex at least once per week. I will tell you, this hit number 1 as far as sexual culture on every list or every website that talks about countries that I could find. This one country hit it in every single list. Do you guys have a guess?
This is very similar to the initial question you asked us at the very beginning of the show.
Which countries do you think have the most sex? Yeah.
Yeah.
How about this? I'll give it to you this way.
Oh.
Unless you were going to expand on it.
No, I'm just excited about how you're going to give it to me, Adam.
I bet you are. This country has more history that involves sexuality than any other country I've ever read anything about. Not just on sexuality, but in general.
South Africa.
England?
No, you're going raw history. Yeah, I see what you're doing there. But no.
Okay.
No, not England.
Egypt?
No, not Egypt.
I hit like both sides of Africa, so I don't know.
Egyptians historically haven't been very open about their sexuality. While they do have way more documentation than most of the world, they weren't real focused on sexuality, at least not that I've seen. Okay. This country, though, definitely does. All right, you ready? Number 1, bar none, across the board, the most active sexual of adults sexual country in the world is Greece.
Greece, huh?
Think about ancient Greek story. Yeah. All right.
Gotcha. I follow you now.
The relatively small and picturesque island nation takes the top spot for the greatest number of adults having sex at least once per week. With one of the most beautiful sunsets in all of Europe, this country knows how to set the mood right for bumpin' uglies. Ancient Greece and many publications about open sexuality have written into the raw DNA of every Greek citizen, the inherent acceptance of being open-minded. So this goes all the way back to, well, they weren't kings, they were Greek. What am I trying to say here? The leaders.
Gods?
No. The leaders.
I don't.
The
senators.
No
the aristocracy.
No. That's a form of
philosophers.
Government. No, philosophers.
You said the leaders.
They're leaders. Greek. The
prime ministers.
No, what were they? Shit, it's killing me. I didn't write this down.
I don't know.
But anyway,
I'm gonna Google Greek leaders to see what I got synonym for.
Can you describe the governmental structure that you're talking about? Is it like
they're monarchies, but it's not a king. It's a
emperor.
Emperor. We said it at the same time.
Yes.
Emperors, yes.
I didn't realize Greek had an emperor. I thought
like
that was
Caesar
a Roman.
was an emperor.
Yeah, Caesar. There's tons of them, and the writings and the recorded documents or the recorded history from them. Granted, we know that some of it is exaggerated. However, it's very openly sexual. Everything you hear about some of the stuff that Nero did, as an example, and that might be a different part of the world, but whatever. You get my point.
Still Roman.
I guess that's a good point. Very openly. Very sexual, very, very well documented. So that's built into their DNA right off the bat. That country comes from a long, long history of just very, very open sexuality. I didn't write anything else down about Greece because, I mean, there's not really,
That's where lube comes from, Greece.
Everything when I tried
Thank you for ignoring that.
walking right past it.
That was awesome.
Everything that I tried pulling on Greek sexual culture, everything pointed back to ancient Greek sexual culture. So everything I had was on all the old emperors and the old government structured sexual deviousness of Greece. But it's none of it's in a bad way now. They just are a very, very active sexual society.
87% impressive. Okay. I'm dying to know.
I did have this. Hang on. I did have this. The increase. This is regarding Greece. Just talking to their acceptance and tolerance. The increase in legal LGBTI inclusivity in Greece has been particularly strong over the past decade. As of 2019, Greece performs better than the OECD average concerning laws protecting LGBTI individuals against discrimination and violence. Since 2016, discrimination explicitly based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and sex characteristics / intersex status has been prohibited. So way to go, Greece. You're basically, the laws that they're writing now are irreverent towards sexual identification or practice or choices. As long as it's legal as far as consent of age and things like that, Greeks don't care. They're prohibiting language that has to do with anything other than, outside of just general LGBTQ inclusive laws. That's very progressive and very forward.
It is.
And I applaud them for that.
Man, I'm so hung up on this. What is the I?
Like
Lesbian,
identity
gay,
or
bi,
something?
transgender.
I don't know. They used to have Q for queer because queer was identified as you were straight or gay didn't matter, but you were a different personality type. I don't know. You looking at that one up, Ron?
Yes.
Jackie, when Ron gets home, Jackie, what the fuck? What the hell did you look up?
It was a weird list tonight, honey. It was weird. I'm sorry. It really derailed from the bit about Greece.
Intersex. Like INTERSEX.
So when you're having sex in a car on 995?
Like interstate sex. The I and O stands for.
Is
here's
that
what
when
it
one guy
means.
puts his dick inside the other guy's foreskin?
You're probably.
It's called docking.
And can identify as male, female, or neither.
So
like
it has to do with.
It's like pansexual.
So it had to do with
or-
identity. So one of you two said it earlier.
Yeah, it's I did.
Oh, you did.
Just kidding.
All right, so
yeah, it's for identity. Yeah,
Interesting.
Intersex,
Cool.
like it intersects with. Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine. I don't. It's a weird thing. Like, I want to keep up and I want to be sensitive to it. The problem is I don't give a fuck. This thing, I don't care. Pork whoever the fuck you want. It's so hard for me to keep up.
What if I want to pork you, Josh?
Well, as long as it's consensual, you do whatever you want.
Okay,
We'll
talk later.
So there was another. there were other studies about sexuality. I brought this list in here because it brought in some other countries. For the most part, everything we had, I'll know where you're going.
Yeah,
I'll
I'm
get to that in a
dying
minute.
to know.
The 10 most sexually active countries are, and this is according to redorbit.com, and this has to do with sexual encounters per year. So Italy at 121, for the average sexual encounter per year.
Wow.
New Zealand at 122, China at 122, Mexico at 123, Switzerland 123, India at 130. I didn't have India in
Is this
list
with
tonight.
different people?
So different.
No, I meant
source.
120. Is that 120
matter.
different people?
Consenting adults didn't matter.
Okay, so not all of these aren't for different people specifically.
No, it's probably
you're
just says
losing me.
they've had sex 2 times a week for the past year.
Oh,
Yeah.
it could have all been with the same person. Didn't have to be different people.
No, it doesn't have to.
Oh, okay, that's what I
it can be
thought you were
the same
getting
person.
at there.
If you had sex with your wife 143 times last year, then
That
you would be
counts.
equivalent to Poland,
Okay,
according to
gotcha.
this survey. Brazil at 145, and then Greece tops them all, even on this list at 164 sexual encounters, are the average for the citizens. Compared to the countries above, these countries have the least sex out of all other countries worldwide. So compared to all other countries worldwide, Thailand has the littlest amount of sex, 95% fewer than the rest.
Even in Bangkok?
So Bangkok, I had to look up Thailand specifically for this. Bangkok is a Bangkok on it, and it's a separate.
You just like
category.
saying Bangkok.
I do. It's fun. Thailand is actually very sexually repressed. Yes, the culture around sexual tourism is there, but that often isn't very above board and could be very immoral.
It's fake
depending
news.
It could be very immoral depending on what you're going for. New Zealand is 63% below the rest of the world. Australia, g'day mate, is 60% below the rest of the world.
It was on point this time.
It was. Canada, 59% below the rest of the world. And ringing in at 55% below the international average of how many times adults are having sex at least one time a week during the full year is the United States, coming in at 53%.
It's our hang-ups. It's just so many people are just so hung up, and for whatever reason, a small portion or decent portion of younger people are more progressive, but there's still that decent sized chunk that have been taught that no, we don't want to be progressive. That's bad. So it just, and then they teach their kids that, and it's just, so you just have this separation. It's bleeding over some, but it's really slow.
I don't know about that. I don't know about our society repressing. I mean, don't get me wrong. Me and my wife sleep in different beds, and I love it. But I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Nice.
No, actually, I do just because the nursery is there, but that's not for reasons that you're thinking. But.
And you fucking snore.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, do you snore loud?
I do snore. Yeah, I got to get a. So they're
Usually, when I was with you at night, we weren't sleeping.
Yeah, that's a good point. And when you went to sleep, you were so exhausted that you wouldn't have heard me snoring anyway.
That's good.
I don't do that with Andrew. I got a device that I'm going to buy. It's a little device called a snore. Oh fuck! I forgot what the name of it was. A good plug, Adam. Anyway, it goes under your pillow and it inflates a small air bladder that just simply raises and lowers your head slowly. It won't wake you up. But it's supposed to, that little bit of movement re-engages your throat muscles, which locks them back up and prevents your snoring. So I'm going to try it out.
Gotcha.
Nice.
We'll see how it is. It's only $350.
Sounds like a great way to cut off your air supply altogether and die.
I'm just picturing the skit with me laying in bed with this machine under there, and it's got like a breast pump box underneath the bed. I know Josh knows what that looks like. It's just like a little...
Yeah, I keep mine next to my bedstand too.
And it's an air hose, exactly the same type of air hose.
Really?
Anyway, I can just picture myself laying in bed, and then the snore device captures the sound of me snoring, and it starts to inflate, and I shoot across the room because it inflated the pillow so fast. That's what I'm picturing.
The snore device will capture it, so it listens. If you start snoring,
there's a wireless device that you hang close to you, like on the bed
It's
or
got
on the wall.
Bluetooth?
It is Bluetooth.
Everything's better with
you
Bluetooth.
and your Bluetooth.
Everything's better with Bluetooth.
Everything's better with Bluetooth.
Snore Mary,
Cool.
snore Nora. Snora. I see what you do there. Anyway,
That's also. You'll have to let me know how that is because I also have started snoring. It's weird. I've lost like 30 pounds in the past like 7 months, and I've started snoring more. I don't fucking get it. It's supposed to
that's
stop.
I don't know.
I'm gonna have to have my sinuses drilled out.
Well, so I've got
know.
this is totally not talking about turning people on in a sexual list, but I have a deviated septum, and I need to have that.
What you call that? Boner killer.
Boner killer. Yes.
Our end of show talk is definitely boner killer. Yeah, we started talking about. Well, here's the problem, and only 55% of people in the United States are having sex. That's because everyone else is talking about sex, and we're talking about fucking draining sinuses and snoring, and shit like that.
And telling each other how to live.
That's our problem. The second we had a chance to stop talking about sex, we're like, yeah, let's talk about not being able to breathe when you sleep.
You're right, though. You're 100% right.
Exactly it. Like most other countries, they had continued the sexual conversation, not us. We're like, nope. That was the most uncomfortable hour and 15 minutes of my life. And now I'm going to go watch the Brady Bunch. Listen to Tach's podcast.
There you go, Tach.
Very Brady podcast. Bing.
The Brady podcast.
It makes me wonder, though. We talk about this list of countries that are the most sexually liberated, the most sexually active. Were they in the same position? They don't have. They don't have.
Doggy style.
But they don't have.
Scissor. We could keep going.
No, keep going.
Froggy style.
I'm just wait. I don't know that one.
I like frog. You don't know froggy style?
Kidding.
Reverse
Jesus.
cowboy.
Reverse cowgirl.
Eiffel Tower.
I'm not touching you.
COVID, bro.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, boy.
Oh, that was a fun
I feel like
list.
Josh was trying to say something important.
I
I think it was
informational.
No, not informational. Just I wonder if the same a list like this is noteworthy to an American audience because we have this sort of weird repressed culture around it, or I don't know. It's weird. Sexuality is not repressed, but you don't fucking talk about having sex. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, I don't know. It's this weird difference between the two. But in these other countries, these more sexually aware countries, I wonder if Brazil's number 3, forgive me.
2.
2. Oh, 2. In Brazil, if you were to would it even be a conversation like, oh yeah, no, we're definitely fucking. Whoop, and that's it. Can I have another one of the Carpa Piranha drinks, please? Caipa Piranha.
Yeah, I often wonder if it balances itself out. So if the sex in these countries is so much more accepted, tolerance for both talking about it, experiencing it, even just casual conversations about sex with a person you hadn't had sex with yet. If that's so accepted in those other countries, where here it's quite the opposite of that, is there something that we're more liberal about that they're giving up? So other things in the society that would, is it a yin and a yang where, okay, we might be more tight-lipped on sexuality. However,
just the side eye at Ron when you said that was just
tight-lipped and looked at Ron talking about sexuality.
Yeah.
Anyway, is there something else that would? I don't know the answer. It's a very rhetorical question.
Yeah,
and I don't know if there is an answer for it.
You talked once. I remember when you were in Colombia, you talked about how it was the most bizarre thing on how the dating scene, like dating is very, like
Yes.
it's here, and I don't want to misquote your story, but so please correct me. But here, if you're dating somebody, like you're my girlfriend, you're my boyfriend, like it's more monogamous, a much more monogamous culture. Versus down there, it wasn't so much that way.
No.
Sure, I mean, like, not to say that people were, oh my God. The word when you're, inclined to cheat on your spouse.
Promiscuous? No, that's not the word.
Infidel.
Fellatio.
Infidelity.
Infidelity.
Yes, thank you. Infidelity.
That's why I said infidel. I was hoping that would infidel.
No,
Infidel. Like Castro?
It's just gone. The word was
you're
not
good.
present.
The point you're making though is spot on. So down there, it's expected. It's not just like, only for the people that are exclusively dirtbags, but it's expected that most men, at least in my experience and my observations, most men in Colombia will have a mistress. They'll have a side girl. It's just expected. You never cross the two streams. You never let the wife meet the side girl, but it's expected. that type of culture just has that, but same thing for the girls. The girls are expected to have something on the side. Very bizarre. Extremely bizarre.
That's strange. Like
other
almost
thing
like
was-
an open relationship.
Almost. Not quite. Not admittedly open, but it's understood. The other thing that was very bizarre down there was the reward. I guess it wasn't bizarre, but it was bizarre for me to see Americans put on some sort of pedestal. Certain cultures around the world are recognized in some parts of the world as having high wealth and high income, and it's a prestigious culture to come from. Well, Americans in Colombia, specifically in Bogota, it was very bizarre because you'd see these 70-year-old men walking around with trophy girlfriends on their arms. And these guys are guys that I knew back from the States that had husbands, had wives and children back home, but they're walking around streets of Bogota with their trophy wives or trophy girlfriends down there. And I started asking questions about it. I'm like, what is this deal? Why that girl could do 1,000 times better with any of my buddies there at the bar, Colombian and American. Why is she hanging on to this dude? So apparently it is a cultural trophy to be seen on the streets of Bogota with an American. It's like if you're the girl walking around with the American that's paying for your dinner and taking you out and doing,
you bagged one.
Yes,
Bagged one.
It's a badge of honor to have down there. It's very bizarre. It took me forever to get used to it, but eventually, I had my two girls on my arms as well. It just took me some time to get to that point of feeling comfortable with it.
You had to work it out. So
Just
you're
kidding. I brought my ex-wife to Colombia with me. I lived in Colombia with my ex-wife.
You caught shit about that, right?
From
Maybe
the
maybe
locals.
It's not the right word, but
Well, from the locals. My coworkers asked me, Adam, why? I'm not going to do a Colombian accent, so forget it. So, Adam, why would you bring sand to the beach? I'm like, what? Why would we don't understand. We don't understand this. All of the other Americans that are married with families back home, they come to Colombia to get a girlfriend. And then they have a Colombian girlfriend, and then they go home, and then they come back to Colombia, and your girlfriend's still here. Why did you bring your wife with you? It's going to be hard for you to have a girlfriend. Like, you're right. I guess I'm not down here to have a girlfriend, though. They did not understand it, though.
Good call. Hey, you need to go home and take care of some things.
Get on the next plane, woman. No, I'm kidding.
Goodness.
Now, I did not go to Colombia to get a girlfriend. Had I known it was that easy, I'm going to change things up a little bit.
What was that city? I saw all kinds of pictures from you guys. Medellin?
Which one? Wait. I went to Medellin, but I never took any pictures there.
Oh, it must have been Matt's.
Oh, no, you're talking... Yeah, so the pictures that you saw were from just outside of Bogota in Tumaco.
clubs.
No, not Tumaco.
No, I didn't see Tumaco. That sounds awful. Everything about Tumaco sounds awful.
What the fuck's the name of that part of this? Give me a second. I'll remember it. Caucasia. Whew, that's hard to remember. Caucasia, because it sounds like a cow, and they have a lot of cow farmlands there, which is ironic. Really good meat.
The pictures were gorgeous. The clubs were crazy. It was one you might have told me about. I don't know, like the super long building that's like high dining, and then they shut down for a little bit, and all the tables go away, and it becomes a nightclub every night.
That's Cali.
That's Cali.
Well, there's one in Cali and there's one in Bogota. Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's a mile-long restaurant, Ron. Literally a mile-long restaurant, and it's got multiple kitchens, of course. And at night, and you hear it too, the speakers are all tied together throughout the whole place. If you're not done with your dinner by the time they cut on the music and it turns into a club, you're shit out of luck, my friend. Because the fucking party is mobile. And at that point, the party goes through all the tables throughout this whole fucking club. And it's just a caravan of...
It sounds like
people.
so much fun.
It was pretty cool. Nectar de aguardiente, one of my favorite drinks in the world. Tastes like Sambuca, black licorice. All right. On that note, we should probably get out of here.
I haven't had that in years.
Yeah, it's a bite. It's a drink that bites you back. All right, where should our listeners go to support the show, Josh?
So if you'd like to support the show in a more direct manner, please go check out our Patreon. We've got a few different tiers, couple bucks, $5, and then just a big dollar, $20 a month setup. And that goes directly to the show, goes directly to our equipment, our hosting, our costs, all of the above. We talked about it recently. Our patrons bought us a bunch of new cabling, new mic stand, new mic coming. So, big thank you. But you can find that patreon.com/twisted10. Or if you'd like to just come hang out, we mentioned the Discord server. Come find that and go to our website, twisted10.com, and there'll be a big link for that at the bottom.
Faux show. Boys, you about ready to get out of here?
Yes,
Do it.
All right, let's do it. Thank you for listening to my top 10 sexual countries in USA. Come on, guys, let's work on it. Seriously, let's get together.
I think
Let's have a
just
meeting.
the three of us in this room can make big changes.
Yeah, you guys below me,
medium
and I'll tell
changes.
everybody.
Slightly below average changes. I
Is
think.
that how? Okay.
I think that's what it is. All right. Thank you for listening to the Twisted 10 tonight. On behalf of the show, thank you. My name's Adam.
I'm Ron.
And I'm Josh.
We'll catch up with you guys next week. Let's go do the after show now.